In the modern digital landscape, the line between activism and harassment is becoming dangerously thin. Today, we're looking into a partnership that has raised serious concerns about the rise of digital vigilantes. Two radical groups, Antifa and the Sedition Hunters, have joined forces, using the power of the Internet to target individuals through what many describe as systemic cyberbullying, harassment, and stalking. This video is about exposing the tactics used by these groups and the impact of their digital campaigns. It's a stark reminder that cyberbullying, harassment, and stalking by groups like these are serious offenses that should be reported immediately to local law enforcement and federal agencies. Key reporting channels include your local police department, the social media platforms where the harassment occurs, and the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, also known as the IC3. Let's dive into the investigation and see how this partnership came to be, and why their methods are under such intense scrutiny.
But including the president was talking about this one. The president's reaction was, wow, actually. That's actually what he wrote on social media, a story we broke here this morning on Just the News. The Biden-era FBI, the one that Chris Wray oversaw, made more than $150,000 in payments to informants who were members of an anonymous group of tech sleuths known as the Sedition Hunters to gather and analyze video evidence of the January 6th Capitol riot and then that controversial Arctic frost probe. Now, they made these payments and they treated members of this group as confidential human sources, despite the fact that the group was extraordinarily anti-Trump, and it is a strong anti-Trump fervor, anti-Republican fervor, and that it had known ties to foreigners. This is all according to FBI memos that Just the News obtained and reviewed. Now, government officials said the group members were first engaged as early as a few days after the Capitol riot as informants, and that the relationship continued over 3 years. It involved about $150,000 of payments. One of those payments was approved by Jack Smith, the former special prosecutor who pursued Donald Trump, and tomorrow will be testifying on Capitol Hill. I bet some lawmakers are going to have some questions. Now, what is most concerning about this is that Chris Wray promised he was going to reform the FBI and its informant program after Christopher Steele, a British anti-Trump spy, was brought in as an informant and helped trigger a big part of the now debunked Crossfire Hurricane Russia collusion probe. Chris Wray said, all right, we're going to make sure we don't have biased informants. We're going to make sure foreigners can't get involved. And we're also going to make sure that informants don't tell people in public that they're working for the FBI when they're supposed to keep that confidential. That's what Chris Wray did. Well, the Sedition Hunters had a clear anti-Trump bias. They were hired as informants. They had a foreign influence. In fact, the emails show that some of the work they were doing on their computers was being done in Great Britain, not in America, just like Christopher Steele was from Great Britain. And third, the Sedition Hunters bragged openly that they were working with the FBI, which would violate the terms of the contract for being a confidential human source for the FBI.
But if you want to see the good Kennies, PBS.
I have challenge coins from the FBI. I have challenge coins from the Capitol Police. I have challenge coins from the MPD. I have letters, patches. I have gifts. I have books. I've done a lot of fucking shit in the last 5 years. And I wanted to go away from it because it's really, really dark and icky. And I'm tired of seeing like avalanches of dicks because everybody ends up on True Fans. And then they use their email that they had since they were, 20. But regardless, I lost my train of thought, but yeah.
That's why. If you want to know more about the J6.
I'm going to get K2's video and post it down in chat because I have it in my playlist and one of my posts because I am very proud of my friend and her work that she did. So I share it often.
And that video was shared by Mace, I believe his name is, on Twitter. He's got I don't even know. I can't remember because I don't obsess over it for years. But he posted my video and it got almost a fucking million views or something. It was really stupid, and it was all hate underneath it. All people saying, how do we find Sandy? How do we find Sandy? Who's Sandy?
Federal investigation into 2021's January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol is the largest FBI operation in history. More than 1,200 people have been charged and over 900 convicted so far, and hundreds more charges are expected before the investigation concludes. But it has stretched the Bureau's resources, and it's often had to rely on the work of a bipartisan group of citizen investigators who came to be known as sedition hunters. Judy Woodruff spoke with one of these anonymous sleuths as part of her ongoing series, America at a Crossroads.
In the beginning, it was intense. I would drop my children off at school. I would come home and I would be on it almost like a work day. And then once the kids were in bed, I was up until 2, 3, 4, and then waking up a couple hours later. It takes its toll, definitely.
Sandy, like many Americans, was paying close attention on January 6, 2021.
We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
As an angry mob of then President Donald Trump supporters violently broke through police lines and stormed the Capitol building.
And I just remember hearing shots have been fired, and I don't think I'll ever forget that moment in my life.
In the following days, Sandy, not her real name, joined a massive citizen effort to identify the individuals who broke into the Capitol. She's been directly responsible for helping to put people behind bars, and she now has to hide her identity for fear of retaliation.
One of the more insidious ones would be a J6er who is yet to be arrested. He started sending me videos of him racking his gun.
Sandy is today part of an informal community of dozens of ordinary Americans who came to be known as sedition hunters. Over time, they developed their own methodologies, guidelines, even a software application to keep track of every individual rioter, giving each one a pseudonym and compiling dossiers of evidence that they then turned over to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, along with the rioters' real identity.
One of the first things is just getting a face, and there is one rioter, Orange Goggle Spiker is his hashtag. You can see him in the tunnel section of the Capitol beating up the officers. Eventually, when I found his face, we were able to plug it into some facial recognition software. That popped up a picture of him at his work.
That photo led Sandy and other citizen sleuths to the rioter's real name, Scott Miller, which they submitted to the FBI along with evidence of his actions on January 6th. He has since been arrested.
One of the Sedition Hunters pages has all of these images that shows you who's been identified, who is not. So when you see like a lot of these, the blue here are the people who've been identified already but not yet arrested.
Also following the investigation closely is Ryan Riley, an NBC News reporter whose new book, Sedition Hunters, How January 6th Broke the Justice System, spells out how the FBI has struggled to investigate the thousands of people who stormed the Capitol.
The FBI was so overwhelmed with the number of tips that they were receiving. They had received hundreds of thousands of tips. And now you'll have the FBI going to the sleuths saying, hey, can you help us out? We charged this guy. We want to make sure we got everything that he did that day. Can you give us a full report? They don't have the technological capabilities that they need to really pull this together.
Is the FBI that far behind in terms of technology?
They really just are sort of behind on open source intelligence. You know, one of the jokes within the FBI is yesterday's technology, tomorrow.
Riley says it's estimated that about 3,000 people unlawfully entered the Capitol, damaged property, or assaulted police officers on January 6th. The FBI has charged more than 1,200 of them so far. But the citizen sleuths have identified and submitted tips on about 1,000 more.
they're not going to be able to get to the number of people who could actually be charged with crimes on January 6th. We're going to end this investigation when the 5-year statute of limitations expires with people who are identified but not yet arrested.
The FBI said in a statement that each tip is only the beginning of an investigation and that they are working diligently to gather sufficient evidence for prosecutors to bring charges in these cases. The FBI did not address the question of whether its technology is outdated, but acknowledged that its work has been, quote, greatly assisted by the many tips provided by the public, end quote, adding it hopes these tips continue to come in. But Riley says the FBI's technology isn't the only reason for what he calls a backlog of January 6th cases.
We do have a lot of people within the FBI who are not so enthusiastic about bringing these cases against people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th.
Are there still people in the FBI not enthusiastic?
There are, and I say that because some of these individuals who were at the FBI have come out and said that publicly. They've resigned from the FBI because of these cases.
Riley points out that in addition to current and former law enforcement officials pushing conspiracy theories, members of Congress have opposed investigations into January 6th and also contributed to misinformation about what happened that day.
Some of the people who breached the Capitol today were not Trump supporters. They were masquerading as Trump supporters and, in fact, were members of the violent terrorist group Antifa.
These included the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who in the run-up to January 6th took the lead in filing a lawsuit to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. He has said he plans to make public video footage from January 6th, but with faces blurred.
We have to blur some of the faces of persons who participated in the events of that day because we don't want them to be retaliated against and to be charged by the DOJ.
If he's going to blur the faces because he's afraid that sedition hunters are going to identify more criminals, go for it, buddy. Like, it doesn't matter to us. We can look at their clothing.
This is the largest federal investigation ever undertaken. And although Sandy is at the heart of it, having helped identify hundreds of rioters, almost nobody in her life knows about her work.
People want to know what you've been up to, and you have all of these exciting things that you want to say, and you can't. I'll just default to the kids and what they're doing.
You're not getting paid for this, are you?
No, I haven't gotten paid a dime. This is literally your friends, your neighbors, your fellow citizens dedicating their time, their money, and their energy in holding people accountable. We have some that voted for Trump, and then after J6 were disgusted by it because they took the peaceful transfer of power and just stomped all over it, literally. And then they call themselves patriots.
I wish we were in a world where we didn't have to rely on groups of people, but I also think we're in a world where the FBI doesn't have the resources to do these investigations.
Cynthia Miller Idris is the director of American University's Polarization and Extremism Research and Innovation Lab.
We don't have the capacity in any law enforcement agency to handle a surge of political violence or hate-fueled violence when it's driven by misinformation that is believed by millions and millions of people.
She says now that members of the public are engaging in violent extremist acts, it's a far greater challenge for law enforcement to prevent and to counter.
It's no longer just on the fringes when you're talking about people in the mainstream spontaneously taking up violent action for a political goal. And I know everyone in my field is watching the year to come with a lot of concern.
Although she says she believes the prosecutions in the January 6th investigation have degraded the ability of extremist groups to organize mass mobilizations, Professor Miller Idris says that the focus must expand to addressing the root causes of extremism where radical beliefs originate.
We put almost all of our eggs in the basket of Department of Justice and think that the security side of it will solve it. It has to be there, but so does the Department of Education and agencies that work with youth, that work with the elderly, that work with digital and media literacy.
I would like to have an ability to counter this disinformation that led us there. It's incredibly frustrating.
Sandy has seen the effects of disinformation firsthand in her own family.
I haven't spoken to a few of my cousins since January 6th because they support it. We're divided, and I don't know how to pull us back together. I don't know how it's going to change.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Judy Woodruff in Washington, D.C.
Before we wrap up this investigation, we need to issue a very direct warning about specific individuals operating in these spaces. We are talking about people going by the names Mina, also known as Sticker Chick, Sandy, known as Good Kennie, and Scott, who goes by DOA. Have you ever been doxxed, harassed, or cyberbullied by any of these people? Maybe you were doxxed out of nowhere, but you remember having interactions with them on YouTube or other social platforms. If this is happening to you, you might want to have them investigated. Report them to the authorities. Reach out to your local Attorney General's office and your local FBI field office. And I have a message for anyone out there currently being targeted or harassed online. I want you to hear this clearly right now. You are not crazy. You are not powerless. And you do not have to engage with them to protect yourself. If you are being called out by name, targeted on streams, mocked, threatened, or having your personal information shared or hinted at on platforms like YouTube, that crosses out of free speech and into illegal behavior in many jurisdictions. Politics does not make it legal. Activism does not make it legal. Being loud online does not make it legal. Let's be very clear about what crosses the line. If someone is doing any of the following, it may be legally actionable: sharing or hinting at your real name, address, workplace, phone number, or family info; encouraging others to go find, expose, contact, or deal with you; repeatedly targeting you across videos or streams; coordinating harassment with others; laughing or bragging while people pile on you; using fear, intimidation, or implied authority to silence you. This isn't just internet drama. It is doxing. It is cyber stalking. It is harassment and targeted intimidation. And in the eyes of the law, you don't have to prove their intent. Patterns matter. So, how do you fight back? First rule, stop engaging. This is the most important step. Don't argue in the comments. Don't clap back. Don't explain yourself. And don't warn them. Engagement feeds their targeting, and it can muddy your evidence later. Silence is your protection. Step 1. Start documenting everything. Think like a calm recorder, not a fighter. Save full video, URLs, dates, and timestamps. Take screenshots of comments and save stream clips where your name or info is mentioned. Save chat logs and any threats or jokes about finding you. Do not aggressively crop or edit these files. Save the originals. Put them in a simple folder labeled by date. This is your evidence. Step 2. Lock down your personal info. Right now, make all your social media private. Remove public email and phone listings. Use a P.O. box if you have to. Google yourself and request removals. And tell your close family not to engage or respond either. This is not weakness. It's smart containment. Step 3. Report. But do it correctly. On YouTube, report the videos for harassment and doxing. Use timestamps. Use the exact phrase, targeted harassment of a private individual. Do not argue in the report, just be factual. If there are threats or doxing, file a police report. Even if they brush it off and say, it's just online, ask for an incident number. You are creating a paper trail, and that matters later. Step 4. If it keeps happening, talk to a lawyer. Yes, really. And you don't need to be rich to do this. Many attorneys offer free consultations. They can write cease and desist letters, advise on restraining orders, or help with civil harassment filings. Often, one legal letter stops everything. Civil court does not require beyond a reasonable doubt. It requires showing patterns and harm. Here is an important thing to understand, and this protects you. People sometimes think, if I don't respond, they win. That is completely false. In law, the quiet person with clean records and organized evidence wins. the loud person bragging, mocking, and targeting. They are just building the case against themselves. And regarding claims of working with authorities, this part matters for your safety. If someone implies they have law enforcement backing just to scare or silence you, that does not give them protection. It does not make harassment legal. In fact, it can actually increase the scrutiny on them. Never assume they're untouchable. No one is. Finally, please hear this. You are allowed to have opinions. You are allowed to exist online. You are allowed to disagree politically. And you are allowed to not be harassed for it. Being targeted online is not the cost of free speech. It's abuse, and the law recognizes that.